Today's episode is brought to you by Crescent Plumbing Supply. Need some help planning, designing, and implementing that kitchen bath renovation? Most importantly, do you have a budget and need to stay on it? Well, they can help. Check out crescentsupply.com or visit their showroom at 6614 Olive. They've got you covered. St. Louis Sports Commission President Marc Schreiber joined us today to talk about the macro world of sporting events here in St. Louis. Tasked with independently soliciting and producing a number of events that bring in tens of thousands of participants and fans annually, from Arch Madness to the Frozen Four to the Musial Awards, we talk with Marc about the process, the goals, and what an incredible asset CitySC has become in procuring these events. Let's go. Hey, people.
Hey.
How we doing?
You know that you can sing just like this guy if you just keep your teeth closed?
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I do that in the shower often. Just sit there and do the Eddie Vedder hum. Soccer Dad Pod.
And by the way, I love Eddie Vedder. If you just keep your teeth together, you can sing just like Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, especially as he gets older.
Yeah.
I saw some of those videos from there. They played Wrigley Field the other day. Apparently it was a big deal.
Speaking of,
Does anything sound good or look good in Wrigley Field?
No.
probably
Because
not.
old style lights garbage.
The only thing, but I do, in a weird way, I do like the wax cups.
Yeah.
Well,
I like the nostalgia. I mean, a piece of concrete fall on your head. It's not bad.
Yeah, it was, I lived there for
drippy pipes.
7 years or so. I did a lot of day games.
I do like trough bathroom breaks.
That's a little odd. for a civilized society.
Yeah. I've been to Fenway and Wrigley, and I'll take Fenway.
You think?
Yeah.
I think the outer area around Fenway is much better than Wrigleyville, even though Wrigleyville's not bad.
I like Wrigleyville a lot. I think that area is cool and all the different bars and all the different restaurants. I like Wrigleyville, and I love Boston, but as far as just stadiums are concerned, I'll take Fenway.
I'll take City Park.
Oh.
No,
For
see what I
baseball?
did?
That's a little weird.
I bet. Yeah. I bet it would be more fun than no. Hey, Soccer Dad Pod, we are back. It's a Monday. I came in with a little slow vibe. It's kind of I'm not in the Mondays. I don't have a case of the Mondays, but it just feels like a Monday.
Yeah, you don't go to a normal job, so like
I do. How do you know that?
Well, I mean,
What is different between what I do and what you do, other than a geographical position? Because people ask me to do something, I do it. They pay me.
well,
He
I
goes
get
to
it.
the
I get
same
it. I get
place.
it. But
It's the same people
It's
asking.
Groundhog Day-ish, and
Yeah.
and then you're there like in a normal scenario that I'm speaking about. It's a 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. to a certain amount of time until you're done. You kind of have an open schedule. So your Monday, if you just don't feel if it's going to snow and rain on Monday, you might sleep till 9.
Yeah, but I'm still banging out roughly 8 to 10 hours of production.
We're not
a day,
talking
whether it's
about
like
we're not
5
talking about
to 6.
productivity.
That's
We're talking
debatable.
about the
Debatable.
rote nature of his life is driving 85 miles to and from.
But in
Mine.
his defense, I signed up for it.
I know.
I was
I
gonna
know. This is not a complaint. It's just
He
a
got the
definition.
job and immediately said, I want a house in Wentzville, 85 miles away.
I had
My commute is 27 stairs, but
Yeah.
you know,
It's all different. I just, don't be a hater.
I'm not being a hater, but your lack thereof of do you got the Mondays? I don't.
and you don't have the same guy telling you or asking you if you have the Mondays
Whatever.
every week.
Have you ever met my wife? I believe you have.
Hey, my pinnacle or my your name here point of the day has to do with have you ever met your wife or my wife? Because it's an interesting fact today.
Okay, mine has nothing to do with that. But
Well, hey, real quick, thank you to those that help make us just dribble this nonsense into microphones. Starting with Explore St. Louis, thanks to the Explore STL crew for all the support. You, again, staycation, vacation, explorestl.com. Go check it out, hotels, food, etc. And it is festival season.
Oh yeah.
Oktoberfests are everywhere. Music fests are everywhere, which we can talk about that in a second, too.
We need to do that. Yeah. And I mean, Music the Intersection was right here.
I know. I watched them break. See, whenever I was here early, I beat the crew that was breaking down the stage. When I was here to work, I watched them work harder.
It's awesome.
So, hey, the other supporter of the show, Crescent Plumbing Supply. 6614 Olive up north of the Loop. I'm telling you, go check it out. It is a bougie showroom that is incredibly affordable. And coming down the pipe, there's going to be a Soccer Dad Pod discount deal. And we all know, like, we are of that demo. We are the boring demo. We're the 35 to 55, middle-class suburban families that listen to this typically.
Yeah.
Kitchen and bath renovations are expensive, so any discount
I'll take it.
is worth a hell of a lot more than a load of groceries, especially in today's environment. Yeah, you like that? Let's get it going. Your name here. You're smiling and chomping, J-Rod. Kick us off.
Your name here, point one of the day. Interesting. You talked about your wife and what she says to you.
No, it's not says anything. It's a look. I know when it's Monday.
So I found this fact interesting. Do you know the average person in each day says, "What did you say?" or I didn't hear you, or can you repeat? So what did you say? So you talked about your wife. My wife would argue that I probably say that 15 times a day. Maybe when I'm with you guys for an hour of the day or 2 hours of the day, because maybe I don't listen or I'm not paying attention. But that's roughly 1,100 times a year. So, of course, my point is non-soccer related. But when your wife's talking, or when you're zoned out, or your kids are talking, how many times do you say, "What did you say?"
0.
0. So that's why the
I
average
wait
is
for
so
her to
low?
just repeat herself, and then I'm like, "I heard you the first time."
I actually get really frustrated when I have to repeat myself.
Oh, my wife is so mad at me. She won't even talk to me because I do it all the time.
Yeah, so
I don't think that's it. No.
I try very desperately to listen as much as I can. My frustration comes when somebody's asking me a question from the other room while a TV is on, or the dryer's on, or a hair dryer, or the shower. And then I have to say, "I'm sorry, I can't hear you because you're talking through walls, and I can't hear well through walls."
That seems to be a trait that I find in my house as well.
Yeah, that's what I get like. But I don't like repeating myself.
I'm not
so
Ant-Man. I can't hear.
I
don't feel the vibration from.
No,
It's funny you say that, because they follow that fact up with the average person says it 3 times a day. Do you know if the person can't hear you, or they make you repeat yourself multiple times, the average goes down to 2 times a day? Because most of the time, if your kid's in the shower and he's dad, and then he says something and you're like, "What did you say?" or vice versa, usually after the second time you just give up.
well, I honestly, if you've asked me the same question, or if I ask you a question and you go, "What did you say?"
So we've
And then
just
I
spent
ask it
2.5
again.
minutes
Hold on.
talking about not hearing a question.
And then I
What's
say,
your
"What
point
did you
of the
say?"
day?
And then the third time I have to yell, and then I get in trouble for being condescending. Well, you didn't hear me the first 2 times in the normal way I was speaking, so
right.
I elevated.
Back on track. Where are you going?
Mine, this day, 40 years ago, do you know what TV show was released?
Miami Vice.
Yes, Miami Vice.
Oh, this
looked-
guy, before
I
every
was-
show, he's like, "This day, so many years ago."
I didn't
That's
even
his-
do that.
That's his
But
point
the
of
reason
day.
I bring it up is because I'm bringing it into a soccer point, which is, do you know how many goal contributions Messi has right now in 13 games? Goal contributions are assists or goals?
14.
28.
That's a lot.
28 goal contributions in only 13 games. The closest is a pair, and it's Evander and Lucho. And they combined have 29 for the season. And Messi has 28 in 13 games.
So you're saying that he's worth the $7.2 billion total contract?
Yes. All day.
Did you guys watch? Well, okay, so your name here, point of the day, Saturday's game.
I was there.
You were there.
You guys were not.
No. I had the privilege of watching it in a hotel lobby with a new group of parents.
What did you say?
What'd you say? So I'm glad, because this is my point is the Apple TV coverage of what I was watching, not good. Was it better in person?
No.
'Cause
It was awful in person. I mean, honestly, from a technical standpoint, we had a fairly good first half, and then it just dropped off real quick, and we let in some goals, and we couldn't come back. But The atmosphere was still positive, like it usually is in the stadium. I mean, the tifo and all that was good, but I don't know what the coverage was like on Apple TV.
They covered it. We had Isabel
Yeah, saw that.
from Santos on Soccer Mom
Yeah, I
Sunday.
need to listen to that. Sounds like she's a Spitfire, huh?
She was good. It was cool because this is the other thing I was going to bring up. I had to. You knew I wasn't going to let it go, but I brought up the fact that Santos was the only supporters group to jump back in to League's Cup.
Correct.
Breaking the boycott. So I congratulated her on air. And her response, simply put, was like, look, we are supporters and the players are our players. And that's why we did what we did.
Yeah, I like it.
And I'm like, kudos to you.
I
On the night where Garber was in town too.
Yeah.
And I saw Tom Timmerman and asked him specifically about the Open Cup, which I didn't hear his response. What did you say again? And I picked this up. But let me tell you this.
You were busy getting yelled at by Kelly.
No,
Kelly,
I
what'd you
wasn't.
say,
I was
Kelly? I'm
actually
trying to listen
open
to
and
what Tom
free,
said.
and I didn't even use my tickets. I'm embarrassed to say that. But I've lost interest. I'm down. I'd rather watch the City 2 squad than the first team.
Speaking of City 2 squad.
Mackay,
Yeah, our boy Mackay.
2 goal contributions on Friday.
Yep.
He's now second or third in the league with 15 total.
Yeah, the
15
Golden
goals.
Boot is in his reach.
And the team overall just fights in general more so. I feel like there are a number of people on the first team that are going through the motions.
Well, I think the math stared them in the face, and
I think the
I don't
pressure.
like it. I don't like it, but I think that's an pro sports thing. You're out of the playoffs. You're eliminated. But at the same time, how many of these guys are fighting for contract points, bonuses?
Exactly.
It just feels.
Well, and you got Sporting coming in to town. Which,
oh my God,
And I don't think we were mathematically eliminated until
no,
that game.
yesterday's debacle.
it was
Saturday's debacle.
Yeah, it was Saturday.
So I've lost my luster, and I really am ashamed to admit it.
Well, let's throw a quick prediction here before we go to a break and bring our guest on. Let me just go to the head of the bench, the head of the snake for the first team. I'm a fan. I'm not going to speak on your behalfs of Hackworth, but given everything else, I mean, do we even? I mean, sure, we're looking, but do we think that's going to be a quick, or do we think they're going to?
My prediction is different from my feeling. I agree with you. I'm a fan of John Hackworth, but I do not think he'll be the head coach next year. Not for City.
Do you think it's because of the reaction to the gross performance of the year?
I think so, and I think there probably needs to be a full reset. And I just don't see them sticking with somebody who still to this day hasn't won a road game. It's only won one game in league play total. That's difficult to. I'm not hanging it. By the way, I'm not hanging those losses or those ties or the results on him necessarily. No. I'm just saying, I think it's gonna be difficult for them to keep him.
Yeah, my prediction's the opposite. I think they will keep him. I think we're going into year 3 competitive wise here, and they have these new kids that came in. I just don't think they're going to spend any money. They're going to get through. Let's face it, it's a business.
Well, you're also in the third year of 3-year season ticket.
You need
bundles.
a good season next year, or you're going to have a lot of open season tickets.
I think you're going to have a lot of open season tickets anyway. But I mean, okay, let me ask you this. If they go out and they get a big name, and whoever that is, we could speculate for hours.
Peter Vermees.
Do ticket prices go up?
They are going up.
I'm talking about in the volume of sales. Like okay, so let's say they go out and get Greg Berhalter, which is a terrible example.
Coaches will not fill seats and
it's
stuff.
the wins. It's the
wins will fill the seats.
And if you come out and you sign Lionel Messi and you have a kid that's 28 contributions to 13 games, goal scores,
that changes.
The coach is really good.
Yeah. Well, I think that I think that's going to be the interesting thing, because to date, outside of Berkey, and you guys know how I feel about a DP of that stature being 110 yards away from the goal you need to score in, I would like to see a big name player that is knocking it in the net.
Yeah.
Not that the ones brought in aren't, but
No,
they're not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
All right, quick break. Rolling out of here, a little more of that closed tooth Eddie Vedder. When we come back, we're going to be talking all things sports, St. Louis, macro, micro, and referees. We're going to give referees a bunch of love in this episode again.
Okay.
You like that?
All right.
Jared doesn't, but I'm okay with that.
Gee, he's a unique cat. We'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks.
Listen up, guys. While you lay claim to the garage, the basement, and that generous little corner of the walk-in closet, let's be abundantly clear. The bathroom belongs to the ladies. The fact that there's a line in the morning means you need to think about a new one for you and the kids. So why don't you set up an adult field trip and go check out Crescent Plumbing Supply Showroom. CrescentSupply.com. Everybody wins.
Now I know.
We're back.
Funny story. This week, as we're recording, is Dreamforce, which is Salesforce's big, like 50,000 plus conference in San Francisco.
Is that the Dungeons and Dragons get together that we talked about previously?
Not quite.
Comic-Con.
Elton John was supposed to perform at the baseball stadium in San Francisco, and he backed out at the last minute. And so now it's Pink and Imagine Dragons that are headlining with Kygo.
Why aren't you going?
I didn't want to.
Really?
No.
Too much.
If it was Elton John, would you have went?
No.
Too many turds on the sidewalks?
No. No. It's just, it is 3 days of from 7 a.m. to midnight. Just
But these are the people that
All
pay
day.
your bills. I mean, do you
they're
not?
still there, and I'm still gonna get paid. So I can still sit in my basement and get my shit done. So it's fine.
Well, hey, we're back. Soccer Dad Pod. Quick reminder that little like button, review, follow, share, those things are free and they help us out immensely. So if you don't mind, hit pause, do that. We would be forever grateful. And in the meantime, we're going to bring our guest on today from St. Louis Sports Commission. Joining us is Mr. Marc Schreiber. How are you doing, Mark?
I am great, and thank you very much for having me on. It's great to be with you guys.
Yeah, it was funny because Jared kind of pulled the curtains back on the reality of our usual unpreparedness before, and I could see like, oh my God, here we go. This guy's a pro. How is this going to go? And you seem to enjoy our mindless banter.
I am plenty unprepared myself, so I'm right there. Like after a Monday, just coming down here, it's like whatever. So I'm
Easy breezy.
We're all fitting in well, and I'll be transparent if it's okay. I am
please do.
not
totally.
soccer dad, so I hope
No, it's okay.
that's okay with the group.
Well, so I had reached out to the commission because I think obviously you guys have a much greater role in, obviously the sports impact on the city of St. Louis to a large degree. And there's all these sports. Soccer is one that inevitably you guys are part of. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about some of your activations here in just a little bit. But for the sake of the listener, would you mind just taking, a couple seconds here and St. Louis Sports Commission, what is the mission so they can understand what it is that you guys really do?
Yeah.
Let's start there.
So our mission is to make St. Louis a better place to live, visit, work, and play through sports. And the primary way we do that is by going out and bidding on attracting and creating major sporting events for our region and then producing them when they're here. So, we're trying to drive economic benefit, social benefit for our community. And we look for high profile, high impact, high value events to go out and attract that are going to bring people to St. Louis, paint St. Louis, showcase St. Louis in a very positive light. And at the end of the day, we want to excite sports fans and residents in this community, ultimately driving growth and making St. Louis a stronger, growing, more vibrant region.
So, Mark, can you give us some examples of some of the events that you have brought to St. Louis? I know there's a range from amateur all the way up to the highest level of pro, but just some marquee examples of what the commission has brought to St. Louis?
Yeah, I think we're most well known for like the NCAA championships that we bring, and that's everything. It's been from the men's and women's Final Fours to the NCAA wrestling championships that we've hosted 9 times now. We're having the Frozen Four here in April, the College Hockey National Championship, and we of course did the NCAA Men's College Cup. Back in 2006 in an ice storm. Not the finest thing, but hey, it was a big deal to bring that in. And then Olympic trials, done Olympic gymnastics trials, women's marathon diving, the U.S. figure skating championships. A lot of college football, Missouri, Illinois, and we also partner with our major league teams when they do stuff like the All-Star Major League Baseball All-Star Game, NHL All-Star Game. We've worked with Belle Reve on the PGA Championship as well.
So let me ask you just kind of your take on how you differentiate or how you approach the pro partners, because they're within, obviously incredibly successful established leagues, Major League Baseball, NHL, et cetera. And there's certain things that they just do on their own. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the events that you're bringing to light here, like these NCAA tournaments, et cetera, those have more of a how would I put this? Like a street impact.
Right.
These are new people.
One-time infusion.
Yeah, exactly. So is the focus to lean into kind of that tourist aspect of sports as opposed to, spending a lot of time and energy with the majors?
Yeah. So it's a really good question, and I like to say we're here to fill a niche in the community and do things that there's no other entity that can step in and do that. That's why an event like the NCAA wrestling championships, there's not an organization that can just swoop in and do that, and that's the value that we have. And so with the pro teams, we're not involved in their day-to-day stuff, but we connect to them. They're all on our board. And when we have the opportunities to work together on something, whether it's All-Star Game or some other special event, we will. But, often we're charting our own course to identify what are the major things we can bring to St. Louis, and let's go out and do them. And, the other thing I should note, too, is we're a privately funded organization, so we're not connected to government. We're out there on our own, raising our own money to stay in business, which is a little bit of an anomaly in our industry. But that's one of the things that sets us apart, and it's an important fact to know about the organization.
No, that's great.
So you had mentioned some of those heavy hitters, some of those big time lights and glamour events that we've had. Can you talk about some of the annual events that you guys have worked hard to keep in-house? Like the Missouri Valley, the Arch Madness. Missouri Valley's been a big event that we've had for decades here. That is huge. It brings a lot of people to our city. The Musial Awards. So that's becoming an annual event. How important are those annual events along with those heavy, like those reach out and get big time? I know the wrestling event you've had.
The rotation.
Yeah, that's a big deal, huh?
The annual ones are hugely important because our industry's so competitive.
Yeah.
It's so hard to go out and bring this stuff. I'm going to go off on a little tangent and come back to what you said. But we're bidding on NCAA championships right now. And I'll give you an example. The NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship, which is a big deal. It sells out now.
Absolutely.
The moment it goes on sale. There's 2 years available as part of this coming bid cycle. 2 years, 15 cities bidding on it.
Wow.
You can have the greatest bid in the world and your odds are still difficult. So where that comes back to is it's so critical that we value those annual events we have, whether it's the Missouri Valley Conference, which we should not take for granted.
No.
Sometimes there's an underappreciation
Agree 100%.
for that.
They just re-upped, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's big news.
Through 2030.
Good for you. Congratulations.
And credit to the Valley for wanting to, be anchored here. They could shop that tournament around. And, a big piece of that is Enterprise Center. They've been great partners for the Valley, and it's a wonderful venue for that event to take place. But, it's also the events that are going on at Worldwide Technology Raceway and having a NASCAR race now and the NASCAR playoffs coming here. That's an annual deal. Same thing with golf out at Norwood Hills and what's going to become the Stiefel Charity Classic. And then thank you for bringing up the Musial Awards. That's our signature event at the Sports Commission. And, again, there's no city or sports commission in the country that puts on an event like that. And we're really proud of the impact we can have to inspire people to be good sports through that. And also, again, it fits into our mission of it's a national event on CBS. Yeah. And here we can carve a narrative out of like St. Louis, this is the home of sportsmanship in America. It fits who we are.
So I'm really curious how you approach, though, that narrative, that the idea of the Musial Awards being this pinnacle of sportsmanship, of goodwill, camaraderie, right? Yeah. And here we have, I mean, let's just be honest. Our backyard is a little bit tattered. We have city, we have county, we have a lot of narratives that go all over the board. How important is it to you for these events, the Musial Awards, the Biz Dash, to try and overcome some of our own bad press? Do you guys think about that often? Do you approach it, or do you just say, you know what, we are sports people, and this is what we're going to do?
Oh, we're a civic organization, so we're always having to think about that. And that's one of the things I come back to of the great benefits of what we do for St. Louis is it's a unifying force. Sports truly bring us together. Yeah. And, the Biz Dash even is a great example of that's a 5K race we do. We do it downtown. It's anchored at City Park on the plaza there. And one of the things I love about the Biz Dash, even though that's not an event where we're attracting thousands of people from out of town to come, it's basically a revenue generator to keep us in business at the Sports Commission. Right. But the beauty of that one is, I can't tell you the number of people that come from outside the city of St. Louis, in the metro area, come down to downtown and experience a wonderful night and realize the gems that we have in downtown St. Louis. And so we may be getting a lot of people who otherwise might say, not going downtown or whatever. And we bring them down for that event, and it can change perspectives and make people more comfortable with being in that environment. And that's like key for us. Yeah.
I think it's interesting too, because I think a lot of those sports organizations that have been home here for decades, they will be the first ones to say that when you can get St. Louis on board and you can get that momentum going, St. Louis people really take care of their own. And that organization bringing these events here year after year are looking to get even better events here as we go on. I mean, that's exciting. I mean, because St. Louis will turn out and they will support our own. Yeah.
And we're very fortunate. Mention we're privately funded. So we go out. Corporate community is very much behind us, the business community, and that's something unique with St. Louis is that we can rely on that. And I think there's a great understanding of the power of sports and that it's something that really unifies us and moves us ahead. So that's a great benefit. And I'll also tell you, too, that when we're dealing with our rights holder partners like the NCAA, USA Gymnastics, you name it, there is great recognition here of how great recognition on their part of how great of a sports market and sports town St. Louis is, awesome. Especially when it comes to the fans. So, that's not a secret amongst those whose events we're trying to bring to the community.
I wanted to bring something up because we had Lee Broughton on several months ago. And prior to City launching their branding and all that fun stuff on the soccer side, him and his team did a metric ton of research on the demographics and the views of St. Louis amongst internal and external. Have you guys on the commission ever used that type of demographic data to help sell City, not City, the team, but St. Louis? Or do you guys do your own research? I'm just curious how, because I know there's some, we're not talking about it, but there's always some drawbacks as from an outside perspective on what St. Louis is. Yeah. And so how do you kind of go beyond some of those challenges and get these major events to come in?
Yeah. Fortunately, there's good familiarity with the market. Again, the rights holders, those event partners, they know this is a great sports market, a great destination. So, having to put research or data in front of them's not all that necessary. I did find it interesting. The St. Louis Business Journal earlier this year did a poll of executives around the country, and it asked them to identify where they associate St. Louis. When you think of St. Louis, what comes to mind? And the top two things were the arch and professional sports. And I think that's
Nice.
that. Yeah, I'll take that one.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I think that's great. And it's helped back to the groups that we're trying to sell to. Many of them have been here, and there's a track record of success. And we had meetings with the NCAA in Indianapolis back in May on our bids, and you sit around the table, and fortunately, there's already a relationship. And I think there's a real respect. And this is not to say, all our bids are going to come through and we're going to be winning a bunch of events this next cycle. But there's a true respect around the table for this community and what it has done for NCAA championships.
So since this is a soccer show, I want to lean into that a little bit because you came right out of the gate and you're like, I just want to be clear, I'm not a soccer dad. But by default, you're now kind of a soccer sibling,
Yes.
At the sports commission with City Park and the team, et cetera. So one thing you said just a second ago that really stood out to me was like St. Louisans or our market, we know sports. We appreciate it. We're very loyal. Have you been surprised with the reaction to City from the MLS version? With this being our first pass at the big stage pro league, because obviously you have front row seat to the Cardinals and the Blues and all these other events that you do. And now here we are in year 2, still having sellouts as we sit in 15th out of 16th place. What's your early assessment of the vibe of the success, or maybe what you've been surprised with and or by from City SC?
I would say, and this isn't my sports commission civic boosterism coming out, but I'm not the least bit surprised. I mean, there was so much pent up demand to have an MLS team in professional soccer in St. Louis. It was so overdue that demand just built, and the steam's got to just be allowed to come out. And so I think what you're seeing is very expected. The weird track this has taken is nobody would have imagined they were going to have the season that they did last year. Right. And now everybody's fretting. I mean, you guys had the conversation, the leadoff segment, and we're talking about this is a franchise that's been around for 10 years, and no offense, instead of just, in year 2 where they're still trying to get some traction. But the outpouring from the community is not a surprise because of how great it's Bill McDermott. This is the birthplace of soccer in America.
Let me ask a part B to that,
Yes.
as it applies to your role in your org. When you do see, and you now have all this content, you have sellout numbers, you have jersey, you have merch numbers, you have hotel stays, all these things that are derived.
The beautiful facility.
The facility itself. How much more of a feather in your cap, in your toolbox, so to speak, is it to add that to kind of your armada of things that you can go to the NCAA and all these other individuals and say, hey, look, not only do we have all this volleyball infrastructure and hotels and baseball and blah, 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 but check out our soccer too.
And I'm going to throw a part B, point 2, which is the World Cup, which I have to assume that the commission was involved in some discussions either with the city or with FIFA on trying to bring some element of the 2026, whether it's practice games or practice facilities or actual games. So I know it was a long
let me unpack all that.
3-part question.
Start with part B first and then get to his B point 2.
All right, I'm going with yours, JB. Which was, what was it again? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So,
What did you say?
How does it help us? Yeah, what did you say? In terms of, and I'm not even talking about going after a soccer event here. The energy around City is great because the rest of the country sees that. And so they take that as, there's a lot of momentum there. There's some good stuff happening, and it just further reinforces it being a great sports market. So that's helpful right there. To even get more specific, the wonderful thing about that facility, and we've had this happen a few times already, but like we're about to have a site visit for the U.S. Figure Skating Championships bid that we have for 2026. We're waiting for them to come into town for that. But one of the things I'd love to do is, like, as part of the day, let's do a lunch over in the Ultra Club at City Park. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that in terms of the schedule work. But the point to your question is, okay, that soccer's got nothing to do with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships directly, right? But you know what? We bring that group over, show them that facility, and it's like, whoa, there's really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
here.
inviting somebody over to your big fancy house for dinner, but you're like, hey, let me show you my library.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to eat your book, right? You know, you're there. And that's what St. Louis is really doing with all of these facilities. And I totally just jumped all over there. To be part two.
It's just more about
the World
soccer
Cup.
and the World Cup.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a bummer that we couldn't bid for World Cup. It's just the state of our facilities right now. It kills me that Kansas City gets good for KC, but you know that we don't have
they who we shall not name.
Right. Yes. Fair enough. So the best way to connect right now is from the team base camp standpoint, where a country comes over here, sets up shop, and for the earlier rounds of the World Cup. So two opportunities there. Both St. Louis University and City have expressed interest to FIFA in hosting a base camp. Stuff still has to happen. They're not close to the teams selecting. It's basically like a draft. Teams get to pick where they want to come. They give a menu of options. Bottom line is that there is great potential that St. Louis is going to be home to one or two base camps, and the thanks to that goes to St. Louis University and City SC, because they're the ones that are out in front of it trying to make that happen. So hopefully that'll occur, and we get a really good country in here to be in St. Louis, and that attracts some people to the region.
Yeah, and can you confirm if it's England and Brazil?
Or Germany. I mean,
Germany.
Why not Germany?
But, you know, leaning on what JB said, because we are a soccer pod, and I know qualifiers have kind of, we're not in that cycle right now. But can you confirm that in the sports commission world, how important is it for you guys to get men's and women's international, national type games here in this city? Are you guys actively taking a role where you guys are putting precedent on trying to attract those events?
City will drive that because of the venue and how it needs to fit into their schedule, but we'll be right there with them to provide whatever support we can, whether it's help with bids or anything else that goes along with producing those. But I know we all have interests in bringing international soccer, friendlies, whatever, to the facility.
Because my part B to that is a market like Columbus per se. Our national team program has done really well in Columbus. And and I don't know what it is, JB. We can probably look it up, but our win-loss record there has been phenomenal.
Yeah, really high.
Yeah.
But that's like a market where they don't have to outdo us per se. We could have those games here in the future and be able to sell out. And I was just wanting to kind of know how important is it for the commission to get those games.
Yeah, and that would be at the top of the list of the kinds of things we want to see here. And you know, the last World Cup cycle, the facility wasn't ready to do that. And so with I think once we kind of get through 26, you're going to probably see heightened interest.
That's great.
To try to do that. It makes tremendous sense. And I think the parallel to Columbus is a great thing to bring up. And hopefully that's what you're going to see.
Let me ask one more question, and then we're going to take a break. And I want to stick with City and this group in particular, because you've been at the Sports Commission since late 90s, right?
Yes.
So you've seen the iterations and the potential of MLS in the past, from Jeff Cooper's team roughly 12 years ago or so. Fast forward to the team's attempt 6-7 years ago, and the vote failed. Therefore, that kind of killed that process. And then up steps Carolyn and the Taylor family in conjunction with Mr. Kavanaugh and that team. Just your optics, sitting in the seat that you do, and you understanding how big sports are. When you watch these groups of potential ownership groups come through, two fail, the third one hit. What do you think it was about the third one that really pushed it over the finish line?
Well,
besides the multitude of billions of dollars,
and that's the easy answer is right. It's a lot easier to get this through when it comes with private dollars than having to go to the public. So that was certainly key. The biggest thing, and this isn't to say that the previous efforts lack this, it's just that this has become a signature thing of the Taylor's effort, is that this isn't just about soccer. It's using the platform of soccer to promote St. Louis, market St. Louis as this thriving community, using soccer as the vehicle. And they truly are like doing this for all the right reasons. And like, you don't see that often in professional sports where an ownership group is taking this on because they feel it's the right thing to do for the community. And they want to use it to grow and better this place, and like the heart's all in the right place. And it's not just the focus on the bottom line, it's what can soccer do for St. Louis.
How fun is that too? Like, as a St. Louis lover, fan, advocate, when you see that group and leading in that light, is it somewhat inspirational? Because as a fan, I'm inspired by them.
And again, it's another one of those things, don't take it for granted. Yeah. We're really lucky to have that in St. Louis. The facility to have what we have in downtown West, like, oh my goodness, it's like easy to overlook how cool that is and how fortunate we are that they stepped up and did that project.
Yep. I love it. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking more St. Louis sports, and then we're going to talk about protecting the refs, because they are out there to protect your kids, people. They are people too.
Agreed.
They're humans.
They are.
And
most of them are, I think.
Go ahead, Jared. Say what you want to say. I know you want to say something.
I just was...
Hey, like, review, follow, share. We would appreciate that. We'll be right back after this break.
I'm Max, and I'm 9 years old. When I'm not playing soccer, jumping on a trampoline, or playing Xbox, with permission, of course, I listen to the Baked In podcast with Josh Allen. Josh talks to some of the most incredible business leaders in St. Louis. From Maxine Clark of Build-A-Bear to Gerard Kraft, the chief flavor officer for my favorite team, St. Louis City SC. There's something for everyone. If you are interested in the secret sauce of success, check out the Baked In podcast. Now, back to those old guys.
All right, people, we're back. You're sitting here racking your brain?
No, I just, the baseline reminded me of the fiasco that happened with Jane's Addiction.
That would be because it's Jane's Addiction.
Yeah. So
you were guessing there. You were like, please let it be Jane's Addiction.
I kind of was.
We should have played Been Caught Stealing.
I was thinking about that one, but I mean, it's like
such a weird.
Dave Navarro in Jane's Addiction when they made Been Caught Stealing?
He's been kind of a journeyman guitarist.
Because I feel like Been Caught Stealing was made before Dave Navarro.
This one?
Yeah, this is my.
You play this when you're in your pool?
Yeah, I like this
glasses.
I don't think Dave Navarro is in this one.
There's no way. This is what, mid 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah, early 90s. Yeah,
93, 94.
And Dave Navarro's not older than us.
Nah, I wanted to play this though for a reason, in honor of our guest here, Marc Schreiber from St. Louis Sports Commission, president, right? El Presidente. Because St. Louis, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, through the Explore segment, we have festivals all the time. But come fall, once we get out of the 138 degree summertime, it really picks up steam. And ever since Lou Fest in particular, once Lou Fest exited stage left, everybody's trying to build out new events, new music festivals in particular. Well, our hosts here, Kranzberg Arts Foundation, it just finished putting on Music at the Intersection, which was literally right here around the corner. Chaka Khan and Black Pumas. It was definitely leaned more in the
Chingy.
Official proclamation. I'm wondering when Soccer Dad bought it. Mayor Tashar, if you're listening, the three of us want a proclamation. Anyway, but
I'll see if I can help on that. we have some connections.
I'm pretty sure the answer is no. We can save you the ask.
Hey, I want to be at Grow Fest.
Yeah, there you go. But the Evolution Festival, which is kind of what I would consider more of the replacement for Lou Fest. And no offense to the Evolution team. Look, you got your own thing. But they've lost two headliners in the span of roughly 60 days. Blondie exited. She canceled her tour. And now, literally, the week of, Jane's Addiction, which was going to be the other headliner, band doesn't exist anymore because they got in a fight on stage a couple nights ago. And I wanted to ask you, like, when you see events, whether it's sports or otherwise, because obviously you've got a finger on the pulse on a lot of things that are going around town, including these festivals, I have to imagine. But when something like that happens, it's almost like having a prize fight. You bring boxing to St. Louis, and hypothetically, Tyson's on top of the ticket, but 5 days before all the tickets are sold, Tyson's like, I'm not going to do this. I don't feel good. What goes through your mind with, being the producer, being the production team on events?
Damage control.
Yeah, when things like that happen, whether it's a team that doesn't show up or a player or otherwise, how do you feel about that kind of ripple?
One of our worst nightmares, it would be when you bring that up, it makes me think to our Musial Awards event. And fortunately, we have not had an issue going back to 2005 of losing sort of a big name that we had promoted. In fact, 2015 we had Arnold Palmer as our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, and we did not know. We had promoted that Arnold was coming. We literally did not know till that morning whether he was getting on the plane.
Oh man!
And coming, like we were sweating it out, and like when we got the call that Arnold's on the plane, that was very thankful.
Where are we going to sell all this iced tea and lemonade?
Yes, exactly. And we were lucky too, because that was, I think, his second to last public appearance he made before passing away. It was then and then at the Masters.
Yeah.
I really empathize with that, because you worry about that all the time.
Do you guys work with those lanes as well? I not directly from a production standpoint. Obviously, they're not going to help you out with running a volleyball tournament, but is there some form of coordination and or communication between the pop culture, the festival drivers on the pop culture side and your team on the sports side? Mm-hmm. Because to a degree, we're talking about, the Venn diagram of those attendees. Yeah. There's overlap there.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you work together?
Yeah. Festivals in town, not so much. Part of that is just like a capacity issue. Mm-hmm. And, for people throw around the idea of maybe we should have an sports and entertainment commission. If we were much larger, grander, maybe that could all fall under our umbrellas, and maybe that would be a good idea. At the moment, we're just trying to find our own way and be in our lane and do what we can well. Yeah. But yes, there's a lot to learn back and forth between those entities.
I got a question that when JB, before the break, you're the president of the Sports Commission, and you have been in this role or been with the organization since the late 90s. We'd be remiss not to mention LA Rams got their ass kicked yesterday. I was rooting for the other team.
No.
Comments, stories, the floor is yours. Stan Kroenke. Do you like his mustache? What does it mean to be in the Sports Commission, to have that and the wool pulled over the public's eye for the years that he did and their exit? Was that shitty for you guys? I mean, just talk about that dynamic a little bit.
I think the worst part of that for us is the loss of a tenant, an NFL tenant in the Dome.
Yeah.
because that has led to, granted that it's been great having the Battlehawks in there, okay, but you don't have an NFL tenant that's pushing for that building to be, up there, dare I say, top tier.
Yeah.
But the point is, it makes it much harder for us. I say now, like, we're not a Final Four city. That's not like a branding thing of like, we're not rising to the level of Final Four city. I don't mean it that way. It's just we can't host a Final Four because our dome is not at the competitive level of other cities. And if you still had an NFL team here,
It would be.
it would be. And so that's
On
from
their
a,
nickel. Yeah, which is part
who
of it.
knows?
Well-
From a St. Louis Sports Commission standpoint, that's like the biggest, I think, fallout for us is losing that. Plus the perception that was generated, not necessarily from the whole thing of, oh, they trashed the region on the way out. It's just, they could have said wonderful things about St. Louis, but the idea that your market loses your NFL team is just not a good thing. And
Twice.
all this, and it's, St. Louis is a great football town. Nobody should.
The Battlehawks have proved that.
Yes, yeah. But it's just the whole thought of like, we'd be better off with an NFL team. We're going to have more dates to do so and so, and don't. Just like really unfortunate that stuff gets thrown out because it did no good to lose the Rams. And thank goodness that a few years later we at least got City SC going. We got a Winter Classic. We got PGA. So we
Stanley
bounced
Cup.
back. Yes, exactly. Yeah. We bounced back well.
Let me ask just a super simple, short question. Then we lost the Rams. Looking at NFL and NBA, if you had your wherewithal, what would you pick? Which would you rather be here, given the current state of branding, growth?
Should depend on the ownership group.
Well, I'm just saying, like, because you shop all sports at a collegiate level down for the most part, including those sports.
Yeah.
NBA or NFL, which do you think would be a good fit for St. Louis today with City, with the Blues, with the Cardinals?
It's an excellent question. And let's preface by saying it's going to be really hard for St. Louis to land either. Not again, anything about this market. It's more how those leagues decide on where they're going with expansion or moves or whatever. I might lean toward NFL just because the power of the brand. That's the most watched league there is. And, so the value of that is huge. I also wouldn't discount the NBA just because of what that brings to a market and the demographics and so forth. With the Blues, here's the tricky part when you ask, if I were to pick the NBA, what it always has to pop in the mind is, would there be a favorable lease for an NBA team in Enterprise Center? And that's probably a tough thing. The Blues, how they're going to make something favorable for an NBA team to swoop in is a tough one there. That's why I think, the NFL is the one that if you had to pick
a little bit more of a known commodity that is standalone because
you only have a certain amount of games per season too. Right. So you have, 8 home games for an NFL season?
7 usually, and then 9 with preseason.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you get a playoff game.
So with the NBA, you've got 89 games, it feels like.
Yeah.
So I have a shift a little bit. I'm just absolutely curious. Is esports popping up as a potential revenue source? I mean, there's $2.4 billion is expected in 2024 alone from hospitality, viewing, et cetera. It's growing. Is that
colleges are taking it on?
Yeah, I mean,
Maryville's a national champion.
Yeah, exactly. They are the Alabama of esports.
Right. So I'm just curious, is that something the Sports Commission looks at as, because that's a very different demographic as well that doesn't necessarily get hit by the NFL or City or any of those other markets. So I'm just curious.
So you're right that esports is big and growing. For us, it's a difficult one because there's like no structure to it. It's Wild West. The most telling thing for me, I was with my large market sports commission colleagues, heads of all the big sports commissions around the country earlier this year. And we go around the table talking about various things. And esports came up, and there was not one person in the group that expressed that they had any success in moving forward on esports. And I think that was really
Are there
telling.
fans?
It is.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these things
Millions.
sell
Fill
out.
stadiums?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
What?
Yes. In fact, one of my friends,
YouTube channels too.
for real, there was a Rocket League, which is it's basically soccer with cars, like remote control
yeah,
cars, filled an arena. And I think it was close to here. And that's honestly why I brought it up, because if Maryville is the center, if they're the Alabama, couldn't we look at creating our own, making something out of it, as opposed to waiting for it to happen?
Yeah, I do think, and I'm going to add a question on top of that, because you said it earlier how City did a brilliant job of approaching the market not from a soccer vertical, but more of a cultural horizontal approach, right? The esports landscape. We see it all the time in soccer, right? When people talk about soccer, so many people will say, well, I didn't really play, but I was playing FIFA whenever I was 7.
Yeah.
You know, do you, and here's my question, the growth of cornhole, the growth of curling, the growth of all these, what I would call the
Handball.
ocho sports.
Yeah.
Like the ability, because content is cheap to make these days. Do you guys look at next gen sports well, you just said not yet on the EA side, but there's a lot of new sports that are growing. Pickleball, great example.
Yeah.
How do you approach new sports outside of the traditional big 6?
Yeah. We have limited capacity by nature of who we are. So we're not the most cutting edge group, for better or for worse. And so it's hard for us to be out on the front of something like that when it's sort of a big risk. And it goes back to the sort of high impact, high value, high profile. So even if we were to bring in a pickleball tournament, it's like, I'm not sure that revs up our stakeholders, that there's sort of enough critical mass there that's a winner for us. It's something we should always be on the lookout for.
Yeah.
It's just hard for us to be in at the beginning. And it was the same thing with esports. We actually did an esports competition that sold out Chaffetz Arena. I want to say it was maybe, 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
Around then. It's just a difficult prospect because of you don't have the NCAA structure where it's clear cut.
Because every game has a different audience, a different format.
Yeah, it's all across the board,
that.
and there's not necessarily a revenue potential for the host. So when you throw in and mix in all those ingredients, it's a little bit tougher
That makes sense.
for us to do.
So
It's not to say it's not worth doing.
No. And
since we're spitballing, then couldn't there potentially be an opportunity, since there is no structure, if you are first to market as the structure? Well,
That's
then who
what
else?
I was saying.
Who else is going to claim the national championship for EA Sports or whatever? If it's race to IP.
Yeah.
So,
But I think
you just admitted the bandwidth. Isn't there.
Right. And there are cities that, like Frisco, Texas is a good example. And there's a few others that have aggressively gone in on this stuff and have built like esports facilities. And I know that's something Maryville, once they have a facility and they want to even go bigger, and credit to them for being on the front end of that and being visionary. So there are places that have been ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
We just haven't been there with respect to
that's
esports.
interesting.
What's weird is City put out a tweet, or X, or whatever it's called, about how they were losing their top.
Yeah, well, he won it last year.
Yeah, he
He
won
went
the
free agent on him.
FC. It used to be FIFA, now it's FC. He won the championship, and he's got a contract, or had a contract with St. Louis City, and they traded. Or I don't know if he traded him or.
Well, I read a little into it. It's Twitch. So gamers are all on
okay.
Twitch, and he has
Yeah.
a massive Twitch page
Yeah.
that's generating fat 6 figures.
So I want to move on from this particular topic. 'Cause
Video games.
all
All the kids in the car right now are like, no, they're all yelling.
But
and soccer moms are like, what the hell are they?
One of the coolest things that I think the Sports Commission does, and JB, you teased it earlier and right before the break, which is the support for the refs. Let them play.
Yeah.
Talk about the origination of that, and why did the Sports Commission feel so impelled to do that?
And that comes out of the sportsmanship focus that we have adopted. That's a niche.
It's a byproduct of the Musial mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So, we decided, about 20 years ago, that whereas other groups sort of stake themselves to child obesity or other initiatives. Sportsmanship was going to be our thing. That there's a desperate need for civility and kindness and selflessness. And so that's the track we've been on, and the Musial Awards is sort of the pinnacle piece to that. But we've also identified this urgency in youth sports of officials quitting, and there being a shortage of soccer referees and umpires and on and on. And so we came up a couple years ago with this initiative, Respect the Ref, Let Them Play. And the whole idea was sort of education around the idea of we're losing officials. And if this behavior keeps up, there aren't going to be games. You're going to have games canceled. You're going to have leagues that sort of come apart because officials are having such a lousy time dealing with the fans and parents out there. This has got to stop. And we have to mount a little bit of an educational campaign to say, hey, let's pull back for a second here. Let's have some perspective here and figure out what's the right way. We got to behave in the stands and on the sidelines. And if we don't change, this is going to be problematic going forward.
So you guys have been doing this for a couple of years now. Have you noticed, are there any metrics as far as either growth in referees or maybe an increase in morale? How do you measure the success of the program as a whole?
Less parking lot fights.
Yeah, right. the county cops are at a minimum.
Less videos on YouTube from this market.
That is a really good measurement stick. A lot of it for the moment has to be anecdotal, because I think it's going to be a while before we start getting an understanding of whether that trend of officials leaving reverses itself. And so it's more the associations where we have this presence. And one of the initiatives that's part of this is we have signage out on the field that say respect the ref. And groups can sign up to take kind of a sportsmanship pledge, and there's other assets we're able to deliver. And so it's more anecdotal of those organizations, those entities saying, we've noticed kind of the parents have been a little bit calmer, and the coaches are sort of keeping to their role. Right. So that's kind of where it starts.
So along the lines of soccer, youth soccer in particular, I just had Mitch Boniak on, who is the director of SLSG tournaments. He was talking about their numbers. They bring in roughly 1,400 teams a year, which I think he said the economic impact is somewhere around 13, 14 million from one club. That's one club, 4 tournaments. We have 20 clubs around the area, Lou Fuse and STLDA, et cetera. The growth is there. Do you guys reach out to leagues like that?
Youth
clubs like that? Yeah. Because yes, it's not the NCAA downtown booking all the hotel rooms, but we're talking about, at the end of the day, probably about 10 to 20,000 families that are traveling here 12 months a year to play soccer. What's the commission's role with our local leagues?
Right. So I'll be candid on this in that we don't get very involved in the youth sports marketplace.
Sure.
A lot of that is because the sports commission gets no funding from the hotel motel tax. So there's not great incentive for us to take the limited capacity we've had and apply it in that area. And that's not to say that isn't, the youth sports market isn't extremely lucrative to our region. It certainly is. We have done, we did 2 years, 21, 23, we did the U.S. Youth Soccer Midwest Regional. We were involved in bringing that here, helped with the management of the event. Exactly. So there's precedent for us getting involved, but we typically, there's a group in Maryland Heights, the Maryland Heights CVB. They have a lot of the great venues there. And so often they're the ones that would step in the youth sports market and pursue those activities more so than us.
Yep.
But we try to stay connected with the leagues and associations.
How do we get legislation going so you get some of that tax?
It's something we're working on. And I've told people I've been as sort of optimistic as I've been in a while by the groundswell that I feel out there of an understanding of people's realization, the value sports have, particularly what we do, and the need for the public sector to do something, do more. We actually, at the state level, we benefit from an amateur sports tax credit that all of our counterparts around the state can tap into. If we bring in a major event, we get a portion of the sales tax we generate back to us, and that's been very helpful. But it would be wonderful within the local public sector, and I mean city, county, convention and visitor bureau, et cetera, to be able to set aside some resources there that could help us be competitive with our peers across the country.
Well, let's be frank. In St. Louis right now, and this is not a political show, but there is the Kransberg Arts Foundation, the Fox. We have beautiful things here, and St. Louis is very underrated as far as the arts, dining, all the other things. But without our professional sports franchises right now in downtown St. Louis, it would be dying on the vine. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Would you agree, Zach?
I mean, I don't know if I go that far, but I think you're very close to saying that without those, it's the draw is
or these events, the Shea Fitz events with the wrestling event, which is a dynamite event, or the volleyball, all these events that you guys are bringing to the city. Thanks. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Well, I think to that point, you having been part of the commission late 90s, you saw the greatest show on turf. You know, excuse me, you saw the Exodus. Sports, like the economy, like so many other things, is cyclical, right? Do you think that it feels like we're on we're on the up right now? Yeah. Would you agree with that kind of perception with City, in spite of the Cardinals' attendance and record and everything else? But the Blues, are we on the up right now as it pertains to sports, macro sports, optics, vibe, so that when you go around the country and say, "Hey, look, this is what we got."
Yes. And City is very much responsible for that. And I think it is very much an upward trajectory with sports in St. Louis, because the Blues, they sold out every game but one game. This is a team that didn't make the playoffs. Right. Sold out every game but one home game last year. You see what the Battlehawks have done. Can't get a ticket to City unless it's Leagues Cup. Well
played.
I'm going to probably get in trouble for that.
Maybe.
Don't worry, only 3 people listen. You're fine.
That's not what I heard. The Cardinals are going to get through this stretch at some point, and that's for another day. And then you have NASCAR and golf, and we have the BMW Championship coming in 26. So the momentum for sports in St. Louis is great. The only area that I find really lacking is the aspirational piece to this. Is I want to get back to the point, and we're not there right now, and it's going to take a few years, but I wish we could get back to where we could do a Final Four, and we could bring in the college football national championship. Like they're doing that stuff in Indianapolis. There's no reason that St. Louis shouldn't. But relative to downtown, I think something to keep in mind, and talk about the importance of especially the pro sports franchises, is we're going to see a little bit of a transformation in downtown, where the reality is that the workforce that's going to be downtown is never going to be what it was, based on the shifts, especially out of the pandemic. Yeah, and the push is going to be to make downtown an entertainment and residential hub. And I think the entertainment piece comes first, and the residents follow. Yeah. But if we're seeing this as an entertainment hub, sports will have a critical big piece.
Well, we were joking about it at the beginning of the show. We talked about Chicago. Wrigleyville in the early 90s was not nice. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, it was a rough neighborhood, that whole scene, and they leaned into, the Cubs made investments in Wrigley Field, but more importantly, it was restaurants and bars. Mm-hmm. And once they fixed that, boom.
Well, and not to, the city that shall not be named, the Power and Light District is another example of where that transformed the
awful.
downtown
He said
area.
it, what they
Yeah.
did around Ford Field.
Yeah.
Nashville right now.
Yes.
There are regional, like where St. Louis is a spoke, and you can go Chicago, Memphis. There's more cranes in Nashville.
Well, speaking of Nashville, I was just there over the weekend for a soccer tournament. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And I was watching the Indy race.
Yeah.
They have that Indy race downtown.
Yeah.
Through the streets.
Oh, that's
through
cool.
East
I didn't know
Nashville.
that.
Right, it was right next to Nissan Stadium.
we got that too. It's just not on TV.
Yeah.
It is red light cams.
Four-wheeler version.
The red light cams.
Hey, you know what? This has been a blast. We could go on and on and on, solve City Hall's issues and everything else around sports. Not that there's issues. I love all of it. Let me just ask a really simple question. Do you enjoy your job right now? Is your job kind of fun / easy / challenging, given everything that's going on in the city? Or are you like Jared on a Monday morning, like, oh, fuck.
What'd you say? It's all of the above, and it's funny. I think anybody that's on the outside that think, running the sports commissions, like. Great deal. And they're exactly right. Like truly lucky to be doing what I'm doing. But yeah, we have our challenges. It's financially, it's not the easiest in terms of the structure and the model that we have. And you're in a region that, because of its sort of structure and fragmented sense of government, doesn't make things easy, but that's part of what's stimulating is, we try to overcome that, and we work in a region that for the most part is tremendously supportive. And the best part is the people that we get to work with, the relationships we have. And like, seriously, doing this kind of stuff is a blast. And so that's the invigorating piece, is knowing people are kind of generally rooting for you and wanting to see the Sports Commission and St. Louis and sports in St. Louis be successful. Yeah. And for that, we're really lucky. That's what makes the job great.
Love it.
In closing for me, thank you for the events you bring. This is a soccer show, as you know, and just the one thing that I can kind of relate it to is Indiana just came in to play SLU collegiately. SLU wins. I was talking to the guys. How good was that beer, or how good was that exhilaration or self-accomplishment? When you get the Frozen 4 awarded, or when you get that next big event awarded, that feeling's got to be pretty nice.
Yes, it's very gratifying, very fulfilling, and you want to do it because we need wins for our region, and that's what you feel best about.
Well, thank you.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us, man. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you, guys.
We will definitely stay in touch, and I do have it on tape here. The proclamation. Do you need me to send the spelling of my name? It's JB. And
just send the wording, and we'll hit forward to the mayor's office.
Well, I was hoping we could just get some Musial tickets. That's a pretty hot ticket.
Oh, that's a good one. Hey, best of
Coming your way. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Hey, best of luck with everything. We'll be keeping tabs on all this, because it matters to us too. I think we are, we're a little weird cog in this wheel, right? Where we love the city, we love the sports, we love soccer primarily, but to see those events do well, that's pride for all of us too. So thank you for all that you do, man.
Thank you, guys. Really
Thanks, Mark.
appreciate this. This was great.
No problem. You too. I'll see you next time. And like, review, follow, share. Thanks, Jared. We'll catch you next time, everybody.